What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From The Bench Vols. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and welcome to our Friday edition of the show, where we have a lot of football to talk about. On our last episode, our Wednesday edition of the show, I told you guys that we were going to continue on with our position group spotlight series with the running backs, a very valued position in Josh Heupel's explosive offense. So we are going to talk about that position group and the guys that make up that running back room today. And also we're going to talk about SEC Media Day being on the horizon. I know we talked a little bit about it on our last episode, but the big question surrounding Media Day and the Vols is who is Josh Heupel going to select to take, with there being a little quarterback controversy within the Tennessee Volunteers program, all the things. Who is he going to take? Usually it's three leaders, some of your best players. We're going to talk about that and kind of make our predictions. I've gotten an idea for one guy, but the other two I think are up in the air. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, do whatever you'd like with it. I appreciate all the love that we have been getting recently on this channel. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you guys go follow the Instagram and follow the TikTok. We're getting really active on there. We've got a new series, a Tennessee post-2000 football grid, where I'm letting you guys get in on some of the content. So make sure you guys go give that a follow if you haven't already. So let's just get right into it all. Again, we're continuing with our player spotlight series. We've already talked about defensive backs, a little bit about quarterbacks, receivers. We're going to talk about the running back room. Like I said, a very, very prized and valued very valued position in Josh Heupel's offense. You know, when you hear Josh Heupel, you think big play, big play, big play. But the running game really opens up a lot of that. It's so play action based and RPO based that the running back has a lot to do with it. We saw Dylan Sampson was an absolute monster last year for the Vols, almost put up Heisman numbers and probably would be a Heisman finalist in my opinion. I know I talked about that a lot last season. If a guy named Aston Jeanty wasn't playing football, having arguably one of the greatest seasons for a running back in college football history, but that's besides the point. I have right here three guys, I'm sure you guys know the three names, that help make up this running back room, and it's a three-headed monster in my opinion. I think all three of these guys are going to eat, and we are going to break it down one by one, starting with the redshirt sophomore in Deshaun Bishop. It was the running back 2 last year, was very consistent and solid for the Vols in times where they needed him, in times where Dylan Sampson was out of the game. Deshaun Bishop is one of the best north and south runners in football, in my opinion, in America. And I know that's kind of crazy to say for a guy who has been a backup, was a walk-on his freshman year, was a walk-on last year, and then was a backup. And then this year he's probably going to be your starter. I think the number one thing that Deshaun Bishop has to work on is his pass blocking. The 5'10", 200-pound running back had 74 carries last year for 455 yards and 3 touchdowns, and averaged 6.1 yards per carry. And he had some games, like I said, where he really played well. He played well against Vanderbilt, having over 60 yards. Same with Oklahoma, having over 60 yards. He obviously killed UT Chattanooga and especially Kent State, broke off a few big ones there. Definitely helped his yards per carry stat for that one. But like I said, a very north and south runner, had a couple big runs for first downs and things like that against Alabama. Was just solid against a lot of good teams last year as a consistent running back 2 behind one of the best running backs in America. So I am looking for Deshaun Bishop to have a very big year. I know a lot of people are. I know Eric Kane, who's been on the show before, thinks Deshaun Bishop is going to have a monster year, has had a great summer of practice, spring practice. So again, I think big things are coming for all three of these guys, but I personally do think that Deshaun Bishop will be your running back 1 next year. These other 2 guys are definitely going to get a lot of touches, but I do think your running back 1 is Deshaun Bishop. I think it's kind of like, a couple years ago, the year we were really good with Hendon Hooker, Jabari Small and Jalen Wright, and a little bit of Dylan Sampson. No. Dylan Sampson's freshman year was Joe Milton's year, because remember he had all those touchdowns, or maybe it was. I'm blanking on that one. That's on me, but I can't remember if it was his sophomore year or his freshman year that Dylan Sampson had 5 or 6 touchdowns against Virginia at Titan Stadium in Nashville. I feel like that may have been his sophomore year, and I feel like Dylan Sampson was a freshman. Hendon Hooker's really good year. Somebody fact check me on that in the comments, but you know what I mean. With Jabari Small and Jalen Wright, they were definitely a running back by committee, and I think that's what it's going to be this year. Jabari Small was the running back one that year, even though Jalen Wright ended up having a way better year the next year. But Jabari Small was the number one guy. They both produced very well. I think that's what it's going to be like this year, but I do think Deshaun Bishop will be your number one guy. Your second guy or third guy, I'm saying your first guy, your second guy, your third guy. I don't think it's going to be so much a first, second, and third guy. I think you're going to have a guy who's your clear-cut best, just like you would at any other position on the football field. And then you're going to have a supporting cast with Star Thomas and with Peyton Lewis. And we'll start with Peyton Lewis. The 6'1", 210-pound running back will be a sophomore this year. And like Deshaun Bishop last year, just was steady and kind of consistent in backing up Dylan Sampson when it was needed. When you needed 4 yards on a 2nd and 6, to get it to 3rd and manageable, these guys seemed like they came in and gave you some good runs down the line. Peyton Lewis was arguably our best player against Ohio State last year, was solid against teams like, I say best player against Ohio State. Was anybody the best player? But he had like 10 carries for 77 yards in that game, so averaging over 7 yards a carry, if my memory serves me correct. I'm pretty sure that's what his stat line was, but was solid against Mississippi State, was solid against Georgia. Again, had a good game against Kent State. Didn't play too much in the UT Chattanooga game, but had a touchdown against Kent State, and we were kind of running the ball all over them because we ran it just about the whole second half. But again, I think Peyton Lewis is another one of those guys. We saw flashes of just getting north and south, getting the pad level low, and finding a hole and exploding through it. Neither of these guys are your flashy, all right, let me get in open space and just kill you. They're great athletes, don't get me wrong. Peyton Lewis is one of the fastest guys on the team. That's what the Vols loved about him when they recruited him, was his speed. Both these guys are great athletes in the backfield, but they're so north and south, and that's what I love. We don't need maybe the highlight reel looks better when you're juking people out of their shoes, but when you're north and south and you're getting 5 yards a carry, I think Peyton Lewis averaged 4 yards a carry, which is kind of low for, what was he? Peyton Lewis was 5 yards a carry last year, so Star Thomas was 4 yards a carry, so that one's on me. But just when you're getting 5 yards a carry, getting the pad level low, and getting through the hole, that's what I like to see. Dylan Sampson was very good at that, in my opinion, getting north and south quickly and finding a hole and going. And one thing that I think is going to really develop with Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop last year that we saw with Dylan Sampson last year was the development to be patient behind blocks. Dylan Sampson obviously was just a lightning in a bottle, kind of. Like I said, when he was scoring all those touchdowns against Virginia, when he wasn't the bell cow number one running back, he was just lightning in a bottle. And I felt like where he really solidified himself as one of the guys in the country, one of the best running backs in the country, was against NC State last year, where we killed them. And he had that run where he got the handoff from Nico and kind of had his hand on the back of his offensive tackle, his lead blocker, there for a while, finds it and goes. And a lot of people don't like that, in my opinion. They're just saying, you need to go. You don't have time for all that. But showing patience behind blocks and being level-headed in the hole, in the trenches of all those big guys, it shows a lot. And it shows a lot of IQ. It's more than being just a athlete at the running back position, because having a very good vision definitely helps you, and we saw how valuable that was for Dylan Sampson last year. It seemed like he'd find a hole and explode, and I think that we're going to see development from a vision standpoint and a patience behind blocks when it comes to Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop this year, and I'm really excited about that. And then the third one, to the three-headed monster, as I keep referring it to, the 87 overall in EA College Football 26. If you guys have been paying attention to that, they've had some kind of, not leaks, but they've started officially announcing the overalls of some of the higher-ranked players in the game, but also for every team. And Jermon McCoy, my boy, Jermon McCoy was the highest-ranked DB in the game. I've been saying it since last year, man, how much of a dog he is. And now I just sound like a broken record because everybody says it, but if you are watching this channel and you know me, I have been a Jermon McCoy believer since he committed here from Oregon State. That's besides the point. The 87 overall is what we're here to talk about. It's Star Thomas, the transfer from Duke, will be a senior this year, 6 foot, 210, can do it all out of the backfield, had over 800 yards rushing for Duke last year, and I do think that he will be your running back 3 but not a traditional running back 3, man. I think he's going to be a guy who gets a lot of touches on third down. He's got some high receiving upside, in my opinion. I think Star Thomas is going to be a very explosive guy for the Vols last year. Had a few games last year where he just killed it for Duke. He beat up on some smaller teams like an MTSU and things like that, but had like 166 yards against Duke last year, or against UNC last year at Duke. Had 60 yards plus in just about every game last year. So it was consistent for the Blue Devils last year, and I think he's going to be a great addition to this team. I think what's going to benefit this O-line, or this running back room so much, is the O-line. And we saw that a lot last year. The boys could block in the run game. There's no doubt about it. Did they struggle in the pass game? Yes. But those guys were good run blockers last year for Dylan Sampson. I think that's the case this year, in my opinion. I've talked about it before. I think this offensive line that we will have next year will be better than what we had this past year. We'll see when they're on the field playing, but I think David Sanders is going to be better than John Campbell was, even as a freshman. Lance Hurd, man, in the most respectful way possible, it can only be up from what it was last year. Kind of an underwhelming first year with the Vols as a 5-star transfer. Cooper Mays is a very big departure, but I think William Satterwhite or Sam Pendleton can slide around. Whoever's playing that center position will be really good. And then Wendell Moy is going to be a very, very good interior offensive line. The transfer from Arizona was like first or second team Pac-12 back when they had the Pac-12 2 years ago. So I think that this running game, I'm not saying that there's anybody on this roster that is as good as Dylan Sampson, but I think this running game is going to pick up right where it left off, and that is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards a carry. It's 7 yards a carry on first down, getting yourself into some manageable situations. And I'm not about to sit here and ramble about the quarterbacks because, man, it feels like that happens a lot. And I'm sorry if you guys don't like that. You let me know down in the comments if you're tired of me talking about Joey Aguilar or Jake Merkling or whoever's about to play quarterback. But if the quarterback is better, it only makes the job easier for the running back, and vice versa. If this running back room and the running game itself can get going early in games and open up the passing game and open up the field when teams are trying to stack the box, it's only going to make it easier on Joey Aguilar. But if Joey Aguilar or Jake Merkling or whoever that is playing quarterback can make it easier on the running game by putting some pressure on the defense and having to send some more guys back into coverage, it all goes hand in hand. It's a big effect on each other. If the offensive line can pass protect, and it's all a domino effect, man. If the quarterback position can be consistent, I think that this is going to continue to be one of the best rushing attacks in the SEC and also in the country. We talked about it on 3 episodes ago, whatever it was, with Eric. What did this team have last year? A really good running game and a really good defense. And I think this year that they are going to have a really, really good running game with a very good running back room and a really good defense. And we'll talk more about that defense on other shows. I know if you guys haven't already, go check out the DB video. It's somewhere with Jermon McCoy slapped over there on the cover. But I think that this defensive back room is also going to take a big step up from last year. I think that Tennessee is going to be one of the most underrated teams in the country going into it. I know that there's been so much drama in the offseason, so that leads a lot of people to believe that there's going to be a lot left on the table for the Vols this year. We are the only, and this can go one or two ways, we are the only people that know every guy on this roster that might be underrated or not big on the national media. Boo Carter was one of the best freshmen in the country last year and just didn't get talked about a lot because of how good the other freshmen were. Ryan Wingo, I don't know why I start with him. Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Ryan Wingo, Leonard Moore, all these guys that were studs as freshmen. And Boo Carter just got kind of overlooked. And I feel like there's a lot of guys on this Tennessee roster that just got overlooked last year, man. Nobody knows who Deshaun Bishop is right now on a national level. Nobody knows who Peyton Lewis is on a national level right now because they were playing behind one of the best running backs in America last year. And I truly do. I'm not getting you guys to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not saying that I've drank the Kool-Aid. that this running attack and a lot of other spots on this team will be just as good, if not better, than what it was last year. So that's my spiel on how I feel about the running back room. I think it's one of the very strong points of the team, the running back room and the running game as a whole. I think it's going to be very good next year. And I'll quit rambling about how I feel about this next year's team. The running back room in itself, if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a A-, in my opinion. That's how I feel about that running back room for next year. So, I said the second segment of this show was going to be the SEC Media Day. It's in, a week and a half? I think it's July 14th through the 17th. It's July 4th. Happy July 4th, by the way. I love America. I know you guys love America. Or you better, regardless of, I'm not going to talk politics on this show, man, but we live in a great country. Short intermission here of how good America is. But happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy Independence Day. I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful holiday with your family or friends, whoever you celebrate it with. And go Vols. This is not the end of the show, just a little halftime segment, halftime show for you guys. Happy 4th of July, and go USA, go Vols, whatever. The SEC Media Day. It's July 4th right now. It happens in a week and a half. Who are the Vols going to take? Each team gets to take three players down there with Josh Heupel. Last year, they took Cooper Mays, Amari Thomas, Keenan Peely. So, it is kind of a combination of your best player / best leaders or team captains. And the only one that I think is a lock right now is Jermon McCoy. I think Jermon McCoy, we've seen him already be put on first-team All-American preseason teams. I just don't see a world, regardless of if he's healthy or not and going to play the beginning of the year or not, where you don't take a preseason first All-American guy to SEC Media Day. That's the best player on your roster. I don't know how good of a leader he is. I've heard great things about with this injury for him. He's learned to take a step back and coach on the guys and, become a better leader, because obviously he is an incredible player, but become a better leader as he's getting older than a lot of these guys. I don't see a world in which Jermon McCoy does not travel to SEC Media Day. Now, the other two, it really is in the air. I think one option for the offense is Miles Kitselman, an older guy, a very much older guy with experience, was in this offense last year. He is probably the most valued or the best returner on this offense, because there's not a lot of offensive guys returning. Obviously, Dylan Sampson's gone. A lot of the receivers are gone. A lot of your O-line is gone. I think Miles Kitselman is a great candidate for that. Again, not healthy to start the year, but I could very much see it. He's a 90 in EA college football, by the way. I don't know why I keep plugging EA. This is not sponsored by EA, but I'd love if it was. So if anybody at EA is watching this video, feel free to let me know. But no, it's not. But yeah, he's a 90, second highest on the team. So maybe that gives them more of a reason to take him to SEC Media Day. And then, again, may not be the biggest leader, may not be your best player, but quarterback is such a valued position, man. And it's such a leadership role on a football team that I wouldn't be surprised if they took Joey Aguilar. I'm not going to lie. I don't think if Jake Merklinger is your guy that he is going to be taken at all. Because if they didn't take Nico last year, I don't think they'll take Jake Merklinger. I feel like that's pretty reasonable thinking there. But Joey Aguilar, just with the age, I don't know if that will be the way that they determine. Like, that'd kind of be your announcement saying, hey, Joey Aguilar is your starter. So that's why I think that might not be the case. I think Jermon McCoy's a lock. Miles Kitselman is a thought. And then the guys here I have on this list is Arion Carter, Jeremiah Thielander, Bryson Eason, Dom Bailey, Joshua Josephs. I think Jackson Moy has a little bit of a chance to be on there, and Andre Turrentine as well, just with him having so much experience. He's been here for a while, man. I remember when he transferred from Ohio State, or committed from Ohio State, whatever you want to call it. Joshua Josephs has all right, I'm a lot better than you guys factor in that, in my opinion. I'm very high on Joshua Josephs. Jeremiah Thielander, looking from the stands, looks like quite the leader out there. So does Arion Carter. And then Bryson Eason and Don Bailey remind me a lot of kind of an Omari Thomas, who you took last year. Just a great piece of your defensive line and experience, and has been a Vol for quite some time. You guys let me know who you think will be taken. If I'm going to make my prediction, I'm going to say Jermon McCoy, Miles Kitselman, and Jeremiah Thielander. That is my 3 picks. I feel like Jermon McCoy is your only lock, and I almost feel like Miles Kitselman is somewhat of a lock due to the fact that surely they don't take 3 guys from the defense. I think they at least take 1 guy from the offense. So, who knows? Let me know who you guys think will be the 3 guys that the Vols take to SEC Media Day in a week and a half, July 14th through the 17th. Let me know who you guys think will be those 3 guys. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Again, like I said at our little intermission talk there, happy 4th of July. Everybody stay safe. Everybody have a blessed 4th of July with the people you're spending it with your loved ones, your friends, your family, whoever that may be. Happy Independence Day to everybody. I really appreciate you guys for joining me on this Friday edition of From the Bench Vols. Again, thank you guys so much for the love lately on the last few videos. Our last 2 videos have been great numbers-wise on this channel. I enjoy all the comments, all the likes, all the DMs on Instagram, so keep those coming. I love responding to everybody, so whether it's just you want to tell me that you like the show, you have a question, or you want to tell me you hate the show, I'm okay with that too. You know where to find me. The Instagram is right here below. You guys make sure you guys go follow that. Make sure you guys go follow the TikTok also, just from the bench _Vols. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Friday edition, and go Vols.